So we are pushed back perhaps a month from our anticipated schedule. I don't see that as a huge problem. I will mention at the village board meeting on Monday night in budget discussions, they're trying to budget for, you know, what the study is gonna ask us to do, whether it's increased signage or painting or things like that. So they would like to be able to, you know, allot some money towards implementation. They're understanding that the study's not quite there yet, so I just have gotten that question, but I don't think there's a problem with us waiting to get the report right before doing that. We had initially hoped to potentially get it before the budget, so we would know what that number amount might be. I think irrespective of what the study says, there's only gonna be a certain amount for it anyways, because they are in a tight budget, as expected, so.
Because the budget is gotta be done in what, November?
Yeah, I think the budget wrap-up is middle of October, and then they adopt it in November. I think you have to have a certain time for that to be publicly vetted, so I think.
So most of this is likely gonna be in 2021.
No, so as of now, so initially they had reserved $40,000 for potential implementation. As of Monday, there was discussion of reducing that to 25. Even with that, we don't know what that would be allocated towards, whether there's one intersection that just needs immediate attention, or whether it's, you know, parking signage or things like that.
Of an intersection.
Right, so,
Yeah,
well,
it's not a lot of money.
yeah, it could be,
Flashing beacons are like 75.
right, whether it's, yeah,
Restriping a crosswalk.
right, yeah, exactly, so, you know, based on what it is, what can we pull together for that amount, and this will obviously take multiple
Bake
years
sale.
to do. But just, I guess, to the point, we're a little behind schedule. I think we all understand why we're behind schedule, and that's not a problem, so, we're trying as best as we can to pull it together to have that information for implementation next year, but the town hall will be scheduled either late October, or early November for that, and then the village board consideration or presentation would be, you know, a couple weeks after that, so we're a little behind, but it's not, to me at this point, it's not worrisome, so just my perspective from the staff level of what I'm hearing and seeing within Village Hall, we would like to get it, but we wanna get it right. So, that's my next steps at least.
I have a question. Is the report that you're issuing actually gonna have any numbers attached to it to implement, or?
Or prioritization or solutions?
There'll be prioritization will be in there, and where it's not policy related, we can put together an estimate as far as, you know, a range. For example, if it's adding signage, if it's removing signage, we'll have to talk to the village about, you know, is that just part of Department of Public Works budget, staff time? If it's, you know, it could be signalization, you know, adjustments. You know, what kind of costs are associated with that? How is that done?
It'd be really helpful.
Isn't that a huge capital cost?
If that information's in the report, so that not only the people making the decision, but the public can understand what it costs to do these things.
Yeah, even for
Correct.
stuff that we don't prioritize, it'd be useful to know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have, I
This
don't
is
know
80,
that it
this is
costs
80,000,
that much.
this is 2,000. If we do this one, we can do all these other things, and
And a
here's
new police
why.
car is that much.
It does give you a little bit more transparency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, numbers, when you gotta
Absolutely.
pick and choose and say, no.
And even just general estimates, right, you know, because we can't.
Yeah, no,
Right.
that would be
Yep.
fine, because
Sure.
who knows when we're gonna buy it, but
Yep.
like, on the order of magnitude,
Yeah.
Yeah.
be useful.
Correct. Yeah, and there'll be, the recommendations being order of magnitude, there'll be quite a few policy ordinance changes that have, you know, if we want to get very specific on what type of costs will be incurred, there'll be probably changing of information on websites, but they really aim to simplify. So there could be some cost savings and reducing some redundancy and some efforts. But we will also include, you know, costs for things, for example, you know, we're looking at recommending adding an ADA space near Atwater Park. You know, what would the cost of that be to stripe and put a sign there?
right.
That's something that the community can look at and say, is it worth our investment? Do we value that or no? And should we prioritize it lower?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
So some of them will be relatively small, and others, you know, we'll have to, as a team, we'll talk about it and we'll put a range together for you. Mm-hmm.
So the town hall that we're talking about doing, that's to present what?
Essentially, the report, so as drafted, so whatever in that report.
But that's gonna be very detailed and big, so what are we actually gonna present? Who's
Well-
presenting what?
We'll focus on key recommendations. We'll talk about approach, methodology, community engagement, and then focus on the prioritized list of recommendations. And there'll be opportunity for Q&A. But what I found when we present these large studies, we can get lost in the weeds pretty quick. We want to focus on actionable recommendations, and we can touch on observations, because you have to convey to the community what's been done, and they have to have a sense of confidence that we observed the right time period, as was mentioned. Some may be skeptical about the time periods that we were in the market. Others may question, were we heard? We went to these town hall meetings. Was our voice, or was our comment, dignified? And we want to make sure that we communicate that all these comments were received, reviewed, compared to other community members' comments, seeing where there's commonality, seeing where there may be a contradiction, but it was all taken into consideration. So that meeting, focuses on upfront methodology, building the level of confidence in the work that's been done, but then focusing on, and I'm just throwing a number out there, it could be top 20 recommendations,
And
and
so,
they're categorized by subject matter.
so I guess my question really revolved around, this is not another town hall to gather any more information necessarily.
No.
This is to present the findings. Yes, people are gonna try and throw more stuff in the pot, and we can take it. But in reality, it's gonna be made clear that this is a presentation of findings and recommendations, and it's largely going to be a presentation, not a collection and a time for people to voice lots of comments.
Right,
Is
but
that-
the way it'll work though is that
Correct.
the report will be shared with the board, and then the board can then decide what they want to do, right? So
Yeah,
there is an
ultimately,
additional period where people can voice their concerns at that point.
Yeah, sure.
But in relation to the content of the study or what they were focused on and that kind of stuff is pretty much done at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
So the consultants will provide a prioritization, but then we may have a different
Correct.
implementation plan, and
Right.
who decides that and
Yeah.
presents that to the board, right? We don't want the board to be sifting through,
Well,
like,
I
this
think that would
here
be
or there.
And I-
us essentially.
Yeah, I will say,
So
the
it's
intent is,
follow
yeah, the
up.
intent is that this group will hopefully maintain itself in terms of after the board accepts or adopts the report, whatever the word is going to be, that we would, continue to review and perhaps identify those things that we wanna go there. I mean, ultimately, the board will be the acting body on any policy or whatever
Yeah.
decision, so
Yeah.
they'll choose their own priorities too, but if for some reason, we need to help push them along,
That's a good question. How long are we gonna keep this group together? I mean, I don't remember us ever actually discussing
Till
that.
the last recommendation is implemented.
I can say, yeah, I don't expect the consultants
Call my lawyer,
to
put in the
stay
will.
with us, but I do think,
You're on the
it's
tag.
been brought up that there will be continued meetings, perhaps next year, at least conversations to monitor the progress of that and just to keep on top of it, so.
I would be interested
Yeah.
in, I mean, at least for
I'm
a
willing.
while.
Because yeah,
you know,
the
do
goal is
something.
not to have the report done, sit on a shelf and hope that someone is an advocate for it. The goal is that this group
We're
would be the
there.
advocates for it,
So
Okay.
after the town hall, we should gather up and kind of say, does the prioritization feel right or not? Should that prioritization be kind of teed up for the,
Well, we can
public
probably
to
do that a little bit
influence?
in our review of the draft too.
Right.
in
I mean,
the
if
town
it's-
hall?
Well, even before the town hall, like I think when we all
Once
review
you get
this,
the draft.
if for some reason their prioritization list was for some reason way off from what we were thinking, then that would be, I think, the time to sort of address it, right? Before.
Well, that's a good question. Will we then alter the report, or will we then alter our recommendations to the report?
I think we should have this is kind of how I would expect the timeline to lay out, would be to get the report, Bart review it, present it to us, present it at the town hall, get the feedback, prioritize, and then come here in another meeting and
Yeah.
say, all right, we got our
Mhm.
priorities.
I would as
What's
well.
what's realistic here? What should we present to the board? and then give the board some options to say, this is what we feel is important, here's some other, maybe a few other issues, if you'd like to touch on those, and like,
Right.
this is what we recommend as the
Yeah.
board after receiving all this study and feedback. These are the key points we feel that are important,
Yeah,
and then
Yeah.
kind of let them go
and
from
maybe
there.
we recommend, phase 1 for 1 year, phase 2, phase 3 for a couple of years.
Yeah, because we're here for a reason, to ultimately
Yep.
make those
Right.
concrete recommendations after sifting through all of this
Right.
information.
But we hired the experts to give us their best practices and collect all this feedback, so I mean, altering the report itself doesn't feel right, but like taking the report and asking any questions about missing data feels right.
Mhm.
But then taking that and then adding
Where
our
we at?
Yeah.
prioritization and recommendations.
Because ultimately, I mean, they do the study and, give us some concrete ideas, but at the same time, we're the ones that see it, eat, live it and breathe it every day in Shorewood, and I'll have a better understanding of, what those, recommendations are more important than others,
Makes sense.
Cool, so do we have a date for that then?
So, assuming I get the report end of next week, and then a week later, I can put together, because I need to confirm the meeting and stuff. I'm looking at probably the end of October, but like I said, I know that there's 1 week that doesn't work for the group, so I will know that hopefully within a week or two, because I would like at least a month to promote it, because at this point, I feel like people will be more interested in hearing it, so I would say end of October, early November for that town hall, and then village board consideration would probably be 2 to 4 weeks after that, just so that there's a chance to digest any feedback that, was relevant towards modifying either clarifying or modifying content, just so that we have a product that we're good with going at. But I think the expectation is that we can wrap this up by the end of the year, and then implementation would begin next year with this group as the main advocates for whatever we, feel is best to push if the board doesn't, run with it themselves.
Great.
Excellent.
Are there any other questions while we have them with us? Otherwise, I think, the main next steps will just be reviewing what we get before us in a week or two, so.
One random
Great.
question. Do we have authority to make changes for the Capitol Drive? I know it is a state highway. The municipality doesn't have any restrictions being state highway that
They
they
would
would
be-
govern.
The state would need to approve any changes that we make, and there are certain things like U-turns that have actually been mandated by the state that we can and can't do
Sure.
certain things, so, yeah, any changes on Capitol Drive would need to go through the state. It's possible that we could do them, but we would need their approval. to
Sure.
do
So
it.
maybe we could take that to consideration for
Priorities, right, yeah.
exactly.
Lake Drive is the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
No, I think I asked all mine, I went off agenda. Sorry.
And the agenda is very loose, like I said, it's not a very formal thing, but it's the hope to get everything covered.
We're still on budget with the consultant agreement?
Yeah, as of now, we're not over, and I would hope that there's not drastic, modifications needed, so Phil, unless you have some expectation on that, I think we're still on board with everything.
Correct.
And so hopefully we're wrapping up the next month or two, so there shouldn't be major, changes or expenditures, so I think we are on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, well,
No, we signed the agreement, and, we'll honor that. There's always interpretation and scope and areas of question that come up, but, yeah, there should be no expectation that we're gonna deviate, so.
Great.
okay, well, Phil and team, thanks for joining us, via phone, it worked,
Sure.
so, we look forward to the report.
Thanks for your hard work.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
And thank you, Barb, for your leadership around this.